The Black Women's Roundtable Essence and Hit Strategies released the 9th annual Power of the Sister Vote. The poll is a survey of Black women voters on the issues that matter most to them. Melanie Campbell with the Black Women's Roundtable joins us right now with the poll results. Melanie, glad to have you here. So what does it show?
It shows that for the first time that I've ever known that Black women are in what you call the persuadable category, that we are going to have to be persuaded to vote. There's also generational divide, that the younger you are, the less likely that you say that you're going to vote, right? We know there's anxiety. Anxiety is high, all the things that, that we know around issues. But when it comes to where we stand politically, there is a lot of work that has to be done. So
when you say in the persuadable category, what's the difference from previous polls? Were previous polls that these Black women were ardent supporters voting for a Democratic candidate, and so
most definitely, right.
and so the poll now is saying what?
The poll still is saying that they would still vote majority Democrat, but right now not as high. The other is just even saying you're going to vote at all. The numbers are reflecting that there's work to be done. Right. What was positive, I think, but not even where it used to be. Roland, Black women tend to vote. We're not a monolith, but we are strategic. And we look at it. And we tend to be, our numbers tend to be much higher. I can't remember now, and Dr. Avis Jones-Weaver, and of course, Terrence Woodbury and Hit Strategies was our pollster, but we also had, Dr. Avis Jones-Weaver who helped with the analysis, and none of us have seen that before. So there is a difference. There's a lot to unravel, but the bottom line is the Democratic Party, if they want the Black vote to turn out for them, they're going to work for it. And if the Republicans want to take a stab at moving it, they have work to do. And Black women are not a sure thing. They're going to have to work for it. Just like they have to work for Black men and all of us, they got to work for the Black vote. Bottom line.
So when you say there's a clear generational divide, give us what that looks like, and what age range are we talking about?
Generation Z, right? Those are the youngest in their 20s. Those who are 18 to 20, I think Gen Z is 18 to 26. So I mean, we have that off a little, but there's a major divide between that and what you call the more senior generation, right? Boomers. And so when you're looking at the data, which I'm sorry, I don't have it all to be able to go through it tonight, I really want to make sure that we can have, Roland, a deeper conversation about what this really means when it comes to what has to happen. You've been out here hanging from the rooftop saying, you got to work for it. This poll is another example that the folks going to have to work for our vote. And Black women are not a sure thing. We are the secret sauce. You hear me say that, right? Well, the secret sauce has a lot to do with not just turning out. It has to do with us also working hard to get our families, our husbands, our significant others, our nieces, our nephews, our community. That's that secret sauce. And the enthusiasm level is too low.
So economics is a huge issue. Economic anxieties, inflation.
Inflation, yes.
But also reducing gun violence.
Right, exactly. So what's different, Roland, when you think of this is our 9th year, right? For the entire time under Obama, they were more aspirational about the things like making sure you had a living wage, things about college affordability. Then when Donald Trump was in office, then it was racism was number one for the entire time he was in office. Now racism is still high because we're going through it, but now it's bread and butter, day-to-day things about just being able to survive. Economic issues are a major concern in this poll bears it out.
And so what really I think is speaking loud and clear here is that if you are Biden-Harris, if you are examining this issue here, really what jumps out is you got a problem.
Yeah, and look, the polls are a snapshot in time, and in the month of Black History Month, Houston, we have a problem, right? So folks need to pay attention. I know, there's a lot of data out there, and this is one of those things that it has tested the test of time. With this poll, this is our 9th year, and I tell you, the shift is very, very concerning.
If there's one thing that jumps out to you, what's that one thing with this particular poll?
The one thing for me was that we normally say we're going to vote Democrat 85, 90, 90%. That's not what we're seeing right now.
What's the number?
I think the number was 56% or something. I'm not looking at it. 56. 56. Sure that they were going to vote. Sure they were going to vote. So part of it has to do with the enthusiasm to show up, right? Is one of those things that's really important to pay attention to.
All right, then, Melanie Campbell of the Black Women's Roundtable. We appreciate it. Where can people go to actually see the full poll?
Yeah, unitycampaign.org. Unitycampaign.org.
So I'm on unitycampaign.org. Where is it on?
Yeah, it should be a link right at the top. Link.
Got it. Okay, it's a PDF here.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And
okay.
It has all the data. Okay.
All right, we appreciate it. I have the poll up right here. Anthony, go to my iPad in a second. Give me a second. I should be pulling it up. And so you see right here where hit strategies, Terrence Woodbury explains methodology. They talked to 800 black women, registered voters nationwide. They were in the field February 16th through 2000, February 16th through the 21st. And then you see right here, it also says the presentation also includes comparative data from a 2022 phone interview poll conducted by Brilliant Corners among 601 black women. So a poll was done in 2022 by Cornell Belcher's firm, Brilliant Strategies. This poll was done by Terrence Woodbury with Hit Strategies. And you see right here, number one, economic anxiety, clear generational gap. Number three, a slim majority of black women voters support President Biden's reelection. 20% remain undecided about who to support. It says here, number four, part of this generational gap comes from younger black women voters feeling increasingly anxious about the upcoming elections, and they don't see that their lives have gotten better in the last 4 years. Biden has a clear lead in the 2024 presidential election, but his greatest threats are potentially independent third-party voters and drop-off voters, especially among young black women. Let's go back to my panel. To have them talk about this here, and if you look at this panel, if you look at this poll, you look at the Black Voter PAC poll, you look at the Higher Learning poll, what you have is clear data, unlike all of these other polls that we have seen that are speaking to African Americans, African Americans. These other polls, there's been a sliver of people in those polls. We're now talking about African Americans. Tyler, I want to go to you first. You were shaking your head when Melanie was talking, and if you're Biden Harris, this should be fire alarms going off, red flags going off. This says they have got a problem. If you don't have black women going hard for you, you got a real issue.
Yeah, exactly, Roland. Thank you for having me on. I think, as we look at the last presidential election, we know that it was black women who stood up and got Biden Harris over the finish line. And I think as we continue to see on it in this system, we understand that it will be black people who will be the deciding factors in this election. And I think it's no surprise to the administration about what the work that needs to be done that Melanie spoke about for black voters. But I think as she pointed out, amongst younger voters and undecided voters, those are the folks that we have to talk to, whether it's talking about some of their political wins or talking about some of the things that the administration plans to do if being reelected. But I think as we think about what's happening in the undecided vote, we see what is happening in the Middle East is really hurting this administration in their response. And we know we've seen a response from them before where the vice president called out a ceasefire at Selma or even during the presidential State of the Union. But I think a lot of voters are thinking, well, this is a little too late. in the term of their announcement on this. And so I think what's happening in, not only within the Black community and restoring, economics, but as we look about what's happening around the world, young voters, people of color are really looking at what's happening in the United States response to a lot of this stuff and really holding the administration accountable for their support and what we see what's happening.
Robert Patillo, we have been talking about these issues from day one. I actually said in 2021 that the Biden-Harris campaign needed to focus on their reelection the day after the inauguration. In 22, I said, don't you wait. You got to start early. In 2023, January, I was like, I'm telling y'all, the campaign needs to be starting now, educating, enlightening people. January 2024 said the same thing. We've been ringing the alarm. This poll had better wake their asses up.
Well, they're not awake by now. I'm not quite sure what's going to wake them up. You've been saying it, Scott's been saying it, I've been saying it. Pretty much every Black person in media has been saying this for the last 4 years at this point in time, which is the Black vote is no longer in a position to be taken for granted anymore. We passed that now. As they say on social media, it's above me. And there's no number of talking heads. There's no number of community events, no number of football games you can go to that are going to change that perception unless you change the policies around it or the way that you articulate those policies to the American people. It's not that the Biden and the Harris administration hasn't done anything, is that they've done a terrible job of articulating that to voters and making sure they understand exactly what they're feeling. When President Trump was going to send out stimulus checks, he made sure that the Trump signature was on every stimulus check, so people gave him credit for the stimulus checks, and it worked. When Trump did anything, he had a press conference in the Rose Garden. He had all the cameras there. He got credit for everything he did. This administration, as Pla said, doesn't know how to brag on themselves. And then also they are definitely a victim of their own success, because if you're looking at the legislative victories that this administration has had, and there's infrastructure, which they said it couldn't get done. The Build Back Better bill, the Inflation Reduction Act, we're talking about the CHIPS bill. You get all these things done, and then you go to Black voters and say, well, we didn't get voting rights quite done. We didn't get criminal justice reform quite done. We didn't get many of the things we promised you done, even though we got all that other stuff done. It starts to ring hollow. So I'm hoping that they are able to go to trusted voices in the community, have the type of talking points that are necessary. Don't try to talk to us through entertainers and rappers and those sorts of things, but really get surrogates out there into the community, talking about what has been done and how we will be priority number one once they retake the House and the Senate in the next term. I think that's what it will take to turn these numbers around. But you can't run the same dog and pony show and expect different results. Scott,
what this tells me is you can do an ad blitz, 30, 60-second ads. That ain't gonna do it. I have said for months that what the Biden-Harris campaign should be doing from January to August is engage in a massive voter education, enlightenment campaign, literally where you're flooding the zone, where you are having town halls, conversations, dialogues with groups and organizations in Georgia, in North Carolina, in Florida, in Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin, specifically Milwaukee, in Michigan, in pockets of Nevada, Arizona. Those are the battleground states. But you also have to do this. Even more so because this is going to have a dramatic impact down ballot. If you're Senator Chuck Schumer, you trying to get Congressman Colin Allred to beat Senator Ted Cruz. So you're going to need to be engaged in Houston, in Dallas, in San Antonio, in East Texas. If you're trying to get Sherrod Brown reelected in Ohio, you got to be doing this in Cincinnati, in Columbus, in Dayton, in Cleveland, in Akron, in those places there. And so this is where Jamie Harrison and Biden, Harris, Jen O'Malley, Anita Dunn, they had better be looking at this poll and saying, right now, they should all be saying, oh, shit.
Yeah, but Roland, you presume that they will have an oh, shit moment the reality is they have never fully invested in their black and brown base, right? And the other part of the country is getting amnesia on Donald Trump, where black people are getting amnesia on Biden-Harris. And it may be too late. I hope not. And tell you something else. I told you, you said a lot, but I told you 2 years ago when they couldn't break that filibuster on voting rights, when they couldn't get that Criminal Justice Act redone, and we were meeting with, you all were meeting, and civil rights were meeting with Republican senators and looking in their eyes, and they said, we're going to get this done on George Floyd. They didn't get a damn thing done. And I said then, right on this show, I said, black folks are getting tired of being tired, and they're going to remember it, because the black and brown base of the Democratic Party cannot win without black and brown votes. Now, they've always taken us for granted.
And I also told you then that if you are the Biden-Harris administration and you have a civil rights division of the DOJ who is also putting in the work, you kind of need to you need to tell people. And look, I literally said this to the White House last week. I'm like, and I've said this on this show repeatedly, I said, how in the hell do you have the most aggressive civil rights division of the Department of Justice since Robert Kennedy was there? And I'm like, and y'all don't say nothing. I said,
nobody knows.
Right. So the deal is, even though the George Floyd Justice Act wasn't passed, and let's be clear, that would only impact on the federal level. When you start talking about patterns and practices investigations, putting cops in jail, hate crimes, putting wardens, jailers in jail, redlining, discrimination. I mean, we go on and on and on. They've been doing the work. The administration, I have never heard Karine Jean-Pierre talk about it at the podium. And so what Biden has done, well, this is what their mentality has been. We have to create this independence with the Department of Justice. No, the independence, Robert, with the Department of Justice is not dictating what they do. That doesn't mean you don't talk about what they have done.
Exactly.
It's the dumbest strategy.
Roland, I find it amazing that Democrats won't talk about the good things they have done, and Donald Trump can just make up things that he never did and just claim that he did it. He'll just pull stuff out of midair, no matter who did it or how. Look, at the end of the day, if you talk to black talk radio hosts, for example, around the country, how many of them do you know who have interviewed President Biden, or who have interviewed Vice President Harris, or who have had any administration official or campaign official or surrogate come on their shows? We're expected to be sharecroppers, where they don't provide us with things, don't provide us with access, don't provide us with guests or talking points or anything along those lines, but we're just going to comb out there and just get out there and do the work for them. Meanwhile, they're paying these consultant firms literally hundreds of millions of dollars to quote-unquote get out the vote for them, but we're supposed to do it for free. I think they need to understand that their hold on the black vote is tenuous. And it's not tenuous with regards to going to the Republican Party. It's tenuous with regards to just staying home altogether. And if you talk to Gen Z voters in particular, if you talk to younger millennial voters, they're very much they're both the same, why am I even bothering, and staying home. And if they don't understand that yet, they will find out when they're on the wrong side of election day, just like they found out in 2016.
Go ahead.
No, I would echo those same words. I think we find ourselves in a moment of what side of history that we stand on. And I think in determining that is still being able to go out and still vote. So that's why I'm still going around the country encouraging young voters to still get out and vote, because it plays a part in how we shape our future.
But one second. So when you're doing that, what are you saying to them? I want to know what are you saying to them? Because saying vote, to me, doesn't do it. Are you explaining to them what has actually been passed and implemented?
Yeah, of course. I think highlighting some of that work that we have seen from the Biden-Harris administration, whether it was with the infrastructure bill, or whether it was with the executive order that happened, that some of us been to the White House and on Capitol Hill, advocating for, whether it was, highlighting some of the student debt cancellation that the president did do, although we are still calling for him to cancel all student debt, but still highlighting some of those small victories, I think is a part in playing that role, but also.
But hold on one second. So here's my question. So when you're highlighting that, First of all, for the audience's purposes, how old are you?
I'm 27 years old.
Say it again.
27.
Okay, you're 47. When you're having these conversations, are folks telling you, man, I don't know what they've done? And then when you say this, what's their response? Is it, damn, I didn't know that?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, 27. 27, I didn't hear you. So 27. So when you say that, do they then go, damn, I didn't know they did all that?
Yeah, I think it's just in the knowledge of knowing actually what's happening. A lot of folks even I talk to don't even understand the political process of how Washington even works. And so being able to just go back to the basics and educate our folks on the process and what control the executive board and what control the president actually has is important in getting that word out, but also is important for the administration to understand to meet people where they are. As you said, having those conversations in communities, understanding the prevalence and the importance of the Black church, understanding the importance of historically Black colleges and universities, and understanding what actually being in community means to draw the vote. But also that political education is so important because to be honest with you, Roland, it really is lacking in political education, folks really knowing how our government actually operates.
And see, that's the point right there. That's the point right there, Robert, that we have talked about on this show. In that people, and I see it all the time on social media, folk say, man, stuff needs to get done. Well, this is what's been done. Then it's like, oh, I ain't know that. I mean, it's sort of like people come, Roland, you should be discussing this. We did 2 days ago. Oh, I ain't see the show. So how your ass know what I'm talking about? And so what I keep saying here in other places, what the administration has to do, you can't talk about things from 30,000 feet. And what I mean by that is you can't say we've had a historic investment in HBCUs. What's the number? And then when you say the number, what's the number below that? Meaning, Florida A&M got this, A&T got this, Texas Southern got this, Alabama A&M got this. See, when you talk about the infrastructure deal, okay, what does that mean? The drinking water in this city, we're putting in all new pipes, new wastewater system, fixing that bridge. If you are not, in fact, if I'm this White House, I'm taking the 7 battleground states and I'm looking at, and I am putting together a fact sheet. And by the way, I asked for this on February 22nd. I'm still waiting. I'm putting together a fact sheet, these projects in Pennsylvania, these projects in Georgia, these projects in Milwaukee and Wisconsin, these projects in Michigan. The late Joe Madison made it clear, you gotta put it where the goats can get it.
Well, look, bro, in addition to that, let's take another example of what you can learn from President Trump, because I think you can learn things from anywhere. If this was President Trump's administration, every single one of those HBCUs that built something with that funding, he will be there for a ribbon cutting. Not only will he be there for a ribbon cutting at the blank, blank, blank center presented with these federal dollars, he'd have a big banner up there saying that this was paid for by Trump. Then he will go on local radio there and local news. He will meet with every major pastor and every religious leader in the community. Then he'd have a rally where he would bring in 20 or 30,000 people. He would endorse all the way down to dog catcher, city council person, county commission, etc. Because that's what Donald Trump did when he went up to Dalton, Georgia, with Marjorie Taylor Greene. And he would make sure he builds the coattails among the local elected officials in the local community so that they're campaigning for him long after he's been gone. And you set up almost a colony there of people who think like, this is how Donald Trump took over the Republican Party, by making every single individual, no matter how small they were, believe that he personally cared about them and he was personally working for them. But when you have an administration that wants to send out a press release, the only people reading the press release are people people in the press. You can't phone these things in. You have to get out there and do that shoe leather work and actually if you're opening up an infrastructure project, a new bridge that's been fixed with federal money that you put out there, you need to be in as many of those and in many swing states as possible with every elected official that you can find, every community organizer you can find in order to build those things up. They're not putting in the shoe leather work and then they're expecting the results to just be phoned in for them.
And Scott, we've all talked about the lack of investment over the years. What I am articulating now is not just, hey, you got to invest more. No, what I'm saying now is you have to understand that the black voter in 2024 is completely different from the black voter in 2008 when Obama ran. I'm not even going back to 1960s. I'm saying the black voter in 2008. Here's math is math. That is, if a person was 16 when Obama was elected and they could not vote, that person today is 32. Mm-hmm. That person who is 20, that person is now 36. That person who is 25, they're now in their 40s. And so the old model of reaching black voters is gone. You cannot depend on an NAACP get out the vote effort because even that's gone. You cannot depend on a black church model. You now have to actually, I dare say, spend 3 to 4 times more money because you now have to micro-target black people. You have to micro-target black business owners, potential black business owners, African Americans who are making $100,000 or more, African Americans who are making anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000. It's a totally different black demographic, and I don't think these white consultants are listening to the black people inside to understand, hey, it's a different world out there.
But Roland, you keep presuming that Democrats in the leadership, the president, thinks like that. No.
I didn't presume. I just laid out to you what needs to happen. I'm actually saying they don't think like that. So I'm not presuming. No, I'm presuming they don't know. And I'm also presuming that they are continuing to use the old model. What I'm saying is the old model doesn't exist anymore. So you better listen to black people right now who are trying to tell you what the new paradigm looks like.
Exactly. But here's some manifest evidence that they don't get it. When the infrastructure bill was passed, did you see Biden or Harris in any black community anywhere in this country announcing it? That helped black people. When the Anti-Inflationary Act, did you see them go to any African-American community or brown community? When they passed, what else did they pass?
They did. But the problem is, but here's the deal. Here's what they did. They did, but the problem is it was too few. And what did they do? They were hoping mainstream media shows up. They didn't show up. So if you did not have an aggressive, targeted, non-traditional media campaign, meaning black-owned, Latino, Asian American, women target, and targeting young, you failed because no one knew. It was like a tree falling in the forest.
When they passed the legislation that reduced the cost of insulin, lots of black people got diabetes, right? Were they in the black community announcing that? No. Again, they announced it, but again, what they did not have was a targeted campaign, and that's what I'm saying. So the question you're asking, or just simply saying, if you don't do that, you tell me, like in any relationship we have, friendships, family, personal, when you don't do that to me, you tell me you don't care about me. I don't have to have a PhD to know when somebody cares about me.
But here's the deal, though. It ain't even, they didn't do it to black people. They didn't even talk to white people. So I talked to a senior official in the administration, and this is what was stated to me. We passed a lot of major bills in a short period of time, and we were so focused on passing the bills that we didn't pay attention to how to sell the bills.
Oh,
and here's the deal. No. And Tyler, here's the deal. That's exactly what Obama did. Obama later admitted the mistake that they made was they assumed people were going to know. But what the Biden-Harris folks also misunderstood, which Obama didn't have to deal with to the same degree, you now have a much more massive conservative media ecosystem that has been tearing apart everything that they've done. That's also driven the negatives up. Your thoughts?
Yeah.
McMillan? Tyler?
Oh yeah, I think we find ourselves in such a digital age where we're looking at the TikToks and the Instagrams and the Facebooks and all these content creators where folks aren't really watching traditional news nowadays, and so there's so much pressure on really telling the story. But I think, as you said before, not only tapping into those communities, but tapping into those listening, those trusted voices where folks are listening to is also important in strategy. But as you said, the administration is totally missing the mark on really promoting themselves and really sharing the work that they're doing and really saying how it directly impacts communities. But again, I will always echo again what some of my panelists mentioned today was, when we don't see Voting Rights Advancement Act, John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act being passed, when we don't see the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act being furthered and passed, Black folks are looking for legislation that they know that resonates with them. And so we have to do a better job of saying how this legislation that passed resonates with them and really break down the numbers that show the impact that it's going to make in communities.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, they might want to wake up because here's the deal. We're now in middle of March. We're now in middle of March. First of all, it's not too late. It's not. No, it's not. No, it's not too late. You've got April, May, June, July, August, September, October. You've got 7 months.
3 years, man. 3 years. Your faith in this administration.
No.
For 3 years.
No. Not just political campaigns. You can't go.
Can't hear you.
What, mic is on? Can you hear me?
Can hear you now? Yeah.
All right. Well, the damn mic is on. Here's the whole deal. If you ain't got to repeat what you said. Scott, listen. I understand media campaigns. I understand marketing. And I understand how businesses understand that you can completely turn people around if you implement an aggressive media marketing strategy. If they continue with the existing strategy, they lose. If they begin to implement a hyper-aggressive strategy beginning in April, you can turn it around. What they cannot do is wait until August to go, uh-oh, we got to do something, because then you're in the danger zone, and that could be very scary for them.